Welcome to Landscaping Podcast. My name is Joel Barnett and I am your host. And in today's episode, I'm talking with Inge Jabara from Inge Jabara Landscapes. So Inge has a business in Melbourne where she does design, construction and maintenance. And my favourite part about the chat was when she was speaking about the systems and procedures manual that she has developed over the years. It's something I was looking to do for a while, and it's great hearing how she went about setting that up and how valuable that is to the business as well. And also like how she started working in the industry as well. So she was studying and then just gradually started on a job and then worked away from there. So it was good to hear how organic that was. And I liked how she's worked with different staff until she's got the right balance of the one she wants. So hopefully you enjoy this chat with Inge Jabara. Inge, thank you very much for joining us on the Landscaping Podcast. My first question for you is, how did you start in the industry?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having me. I've been watching everyone in the industry join on, so I thought I would give it a whirl. So I actually started out doing landscape architecture at RMIT, and then I did a Bachelor of Environmental Horticulture at Melbourne University. And while I was in the last year of that degree, I was literally like a month away from finishing my final exams. And this landscape architect girl came up to me and said, "You know how to build landscapes, don't you?" And at the time I had a part-time job where I was doing like basic crushed rock driveways with toppings. That was back like 13 years ago when everyone was doing a toppings driveway before we started doing exposed. And I'd gotten a sort of little bit of a name in my friend group as being able to do basic garden fit outs with a little bit of minor landscaping, sort of still softscaping. And anyway, she came up to me in a pub and she said, "I've got this design for an Ivanhoe job. You're a landscaper, right? You can do it." And I said, "Yeah, I'll give it a whirl." So I was literally about to finish my exams. I was sitting at Melbourne University, Burnley, on one of the tables, like finalizing this quote, and like everyone around me is going like, "Yay, last exam, so excited, we're gonna go party." And I'm like, "No, I've got to finish this quote for a $75,000 job." So I then met with the client, presented the quote, and they said yes. They actually deposited all the money into my account and went to Cambodia for 3 weeks. And they said, "We're going to give you the job, but you have to have it done by the time we get back from Cambodia." And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." So anyway, they were a lovely client. I finished the job. I got all my subcontractors in. I actually was asking a couple of lecturers that were teaching us about hardscapes, so paving and retaining walls and footings, etc. So I got one of my lecturers to actually come in and work with me on that job and start to teach me on the hands-on side of things how to do the paving, because I already knew how to do the planting and soil and the mulch and the irrigation from my current job that I was working at. I also got friends from uni to come in and help me plant. Like, it was hilarious, but I did a beautiful job. Anyway, from that, got to take photos, and then, hey presto, Inge Jabara Landscapes was born out of a very small profit I made on that job.
I was going to say, did you make any money on it?
Yeah, I reckon I made, from memory, maybe it was like 10 grand. But that was a lot of money for someone who was driving a VW Golf that's rear suspension was blown out from carrying so many bags of potting mix in the back. And I was, I'd gone from putting $5 worth of petrol in the car to like, yeah, I can actually put a full tank of petrol in the car. Woohoo! So anyway, so from that, I bought the ABN, the business name, and like a Mac desktop computer. And also tried to work out how I would do like accounting. So MyOb at that point in time came on, as the software I was using. So, and that's how Inge Jabara Landscapes started.
So what was your plan to do design and construction the whole time?
So basically that, I've never been asked these questions before. They're good questions. So, but right back at the start, I sort of thought to myself, right, I've done this job. It was so hella. Maybe I want to start a business that's a bit more like easy. And so I actually came up with a business that was a rose pruning business. And I can't even remember what it was called. I still have some marketing flyers somewhere in the boxes here at my house where I started. I was handing them out, and then I went, no one's actually asking me to do this, so this is a really shit idea. So the answer was no. But then as I was starting to sort of market myself, I got involved with a company that was called House and Garden Presentation Services. And they worked with quite a lot of real estate agents in the Melbourne, Toorak, Armidale area. And they got me to renovate the garden with a really quick turnaround for sale. And so that's where I got a lot of my starting out work, met a lot of the wives, the partners that were living at home. And they then word of mouthed that I was this sort of landscaping girl. And so from there, I then saw a gap in the market. Because back then, Joel, because I know you've been around for that time as well, back then it was really just you had a gardener and you had a landscaper. You didn't have both. So I was like, there's a gap in the market to do design, which I can do, and there's a gap there to do construct, or depending on the levels. Obviously, I wasn't really confident with certain things at that point in my career. And then also because I was working so the company I was working for back when I was finishing that second degree, where I was doing those minor installs, that was actually a garden maintenance company. They were servicing about 80 to 90 gardens in the Brighton area, Bayside suburb area. And so I already knew how to service gardens because I was basically a garden maintenance person that in that company got identified as someone who could manage their shit and a service really well and had really good client interpersonal relationship. And so therefore they repurposed me into this sort of small gardens install manager. So yeah, I didn't see that as initial, but then as probably in my first year of business, I then worked out that there was definitely a gap in the market to create a one-stop shop.
I reckon even still now there is, because there's one thing for people who want someone to do the design and construction and then be able to do all the different pieces within construction, but also maintaining it is something people want on the bigger end projects. So
absolutely, like all of our clients, they come to us because they don't have to go anywhere else or find another person. And I think one of the things that we do as an industry need to improve, which is once you finish a job, having that accountability to, know that it's still going to be there in 12 months, that the irrigation system hasn't shit itself, that the lights still work and don't flick, that the paving is not defective. They're the things that clients want to know that they're going to get from a service provider. So when we say to them, we're going to provide you with an ongoing maintenance package, they have to pay for that package as an additional service, but we actually offer a mandatory 30, so there's two offers we do with our clients, a mandatory 30-day warranty on all plants installed. That's if they don't uptake the maintenance package, so that they have peace of mind a month after, because usually within a month you're going to see problems starting. And obviously from a horticulture perspective, that is correct. So we say, look, if there's a major failure, please let us know anyway. There wouldn't be, but if we have one or two plants, we'll replace it at no cost to you. But if you uptake a maintenance service package with us of a minimum of 6 months, we will provide a 6-month warranty on your garden after completion. So that's to do with the plants. Obviously, there's other warranties, structural warranties with all the other stuff with our building license. But yeah, so clients are like, yep, we want you because we know that within that 6-month period, if we've got problems, you're still maintaining. We still have you with us. And then as you've seen firsthand, when you hand over that landscape that's freshly finished, that client's like, oh God, what do I do? Like, wait, show me that hunter node again. Like, I didn't see what you did there. Like, well, what, so we just scrapped all that and we went, right, we're going to be providing this to every single client as a package service every time we finish a landscape. And we've had, I would probably say we're at a 95 to 97% conversion rate on that now, which is excellent.
Yeah, because that first 6 to 12 months is the most critical as well. Because if most of the time, if the plants are going to survive that, they'll survive. Like, they're happy after that.
100%. We have had a client in the last probably 3-4 years ago. We finished that garden and they didn't uptake a maintenance package and they did not maintain the job for 2 years. They then called us and said, oh, we're really concerned about the garden. It's like not doing too well. I went there And I reckon it had grown very little. They had let the soil, go. They hadn't fed it, no mulch. So there was a lot of weeds. There was a lot of weed competition with the existing plants that we'd planted. The irrigation system had been turned off in the front and the dog ate the one in the back. Like they did $50,000 worth of damage in 2 years to a $150,000 job.
Yeah.
So, and, we do tell that story, or sort of we're not trying to scare our clients, but we do tell that story to our clients that maybe don't see the value in that type of package. And that tends to be quite persuasive because, they're making a minimum $150,000 investment into their garden for an extra couple of $100 per month to keep it maintained. And also from a horticulture perspective, and going back on your point, the first 3 summers of a tree's life, or plant's life in general, is the most critical. If you do not get good food, good soil hydration, and mulch applied, those plants become stunted, they aren't pruned correctly, you see all kinds of problems, and that garden just goes to shit. Sorry.
Yeah. And it helps with the even the watering schedule, because I know if you're watering, it's better off to water less frequently but deeper rather than watering every day a little bit, because if the plant's getting watered every day, the roots just sort of go horizontally because they don't have to go deep to get the water. Right. So then when there's a drought, the top of the soil dries out first, the plant dries out first. So if there's someone looking after it and watering it properly, then it's better value.
Absolutely. So we have like a full handover procedure now within our company. There's a handover procedure from design to construct, from construct to maintain. And part of that procedure is when we finish a garden, we have in our company what's called, I've just named it this cute name, but it's establishment settings. So we put the irrigation system on every day for, depending on what time of the year it is, between 15 or 30 minutes, irrigation every single day. So we basically flood the site. And as you know, when you work on a dry summer site that's a heavy clay, or no clay, it's a sandy loam soil, and it's just completely dried through because it's a new house build, you need to really irrigate that soil and get that water down the profile. Otherwise, you're going to have that top 10 centimeters of that soil is going to be really wet, and then that bottom profile is going to be really dry, especially as you go closer to the house as well. And obviously that is there, it's got some level of nutrient, but depending if it was a cut or a fill, it might be nutrient void as well. So anyway, we do this establishment settings for 3 weeks after the install. And then that usually is the time that our maintenance service will start or kick in. And then we draw that back to the standard, which is every second day or every third day, depending on what time of the year it is. So our team will then come in, our maintenance team will then come in and adjust the settings. But we've seen great response from that. We have virtually nil death now, especially in summer. And then the maintenance team comes in and goes, yep, great. We just have a lot of hedging to do because everything's gone bananas. And they give it a feed as well as part of the first starting package.
Mm. So with the crew that you're working for, when you realised that that's what you're wanting to do, how did you start the business after that?
So I was in the landscaping gardening industry, with my first job. That was with that maintenance company, and then they repurposed me into that other role. I already loved the industry. I already loved gardens from a young age. Like my grandfather, who is Scandinavian, he had a farm in Cranbourne. It's where a freeway is now, but there was a farm there. And he had like pear trees, lemon, macadamia, like every kind of fruit tree, citrus trees, chickens. So he took me around the garden and taught me all the different plant names, and my mum did the same thing as well. She was like, that's a hydrangea, that's a lily, that's a daylily, and so I would just pick up these plants. And when I was a kid, when my parents split up, I was like maybe 11 or 12. My dad wasn't there, so I was there taking care of the garden because we had this house in Kew, and the back garden and the front garden was massive. And so I just started to use that as my own venting system to go out and take care of the gardens. So I already knew from a young age that I liked gardens. Then when I went through year 12, I was a bit of a rebel at school. So I was naughty and I got sent from one school to another because I was so naughty. Anyway, I sat down with a careers counsellor within the first couple of months of year 12, and she said, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I have no idea what I want to do with my life. Like, who does at this age? And she said, well, what do you like doing? And I said, well, I love plants. I love gardens, but you can't make any money out of that. She's like, no, you could be a landscape architect. I'm like, get out of town. I am not smart enough to be a landscape architect. And she's like, yes, you are. If you get this, and this score, you can get it. And anyway, so lo and behold, that's how I got into landscape architecture. So I've known from a young age that I love gardens. It just took that careers counsellor to say, that's the industry you might want to think about. And then as soon as I got into it, I was like, yeah, I love design. I need to now understand how I can build it to be able to design it, and then I sort of was like, well, I think I'm good at designing, but if I don't know how it all works below, like from a practical point of view, I can't see it in my head. So that's why I got the hands-on role that I did. Then when I went and did my first job, I obviously got the hands-on experience there. And then I got my landscape cert 3 by working on the tools in my own company. So that was kind of that light bulb. As soon as I did that Ivanhoe job, I was like, this is what I want to do. This is totally what I want to do. And plus it makes me money. Great. So
when did you start doing the designs for yourself?
Good question. I think I was doing because I knew how to do hand drawings as well. I obviously knew how to use AutoCAD, but AutoCAD's really time consuming. I think after the first, I actually can't remember, but honestly, I can't remember. I swear after I had 2 kids, like my brain doesn't, the recollection of 13 years ago is not there.
Yeah.
I definitely was building for other people's designs. And I would say that was about 80%, like back then it was about 80% of the work that I was doing. Plus I was still doing house and garden presentation services, like those revamps for sale. And then I started to get jobs where they were bigger ones, but they needed the whole design done. And I was like, cool, I can do that. So very quickly, I would say within my first 3 years, I hired a landscape architect to work full-time in my studio. And then I was just maybe doing 10. It was not really that well set up in the first 5 years of my business. Like, you know what it's like. The first 5 years of your business turning over cash is the most critical. And if you sort of stuff up a few things, then if you don't make it past those 5 years, you're really not going to make it after that. So the point I was trying to make there was that, I started doing it early on, but not a lot of it. And now I would say that we do 70 to 80% Inge Jabara design and construct, and 10% is Lisa Ellis, Paul Bangay, the motley crew out there. So the lovely motley crew. Anyway.
Do you do any designs that you don't build?
Yeah, heaps. Because we can't service the design volume I have come in. I literally cannot service the construct. So I only will build, I mean, I probably shouldn't say this out loud, but I would only build what I want to build. Yeah.
Yep.
There are some, like, don't get me wrong, like I will actually build jobs for clients we love. So, but then if there's a client listening to this, they'll probably be like, well, you didn't build my job. Well, no. There would have been like a whole bunch of other things. Like you wanted it done in a time frame we couldn't meet, or, so there's lots of other factors.
In terms of, so you do construction as well for other designers, but do you do maintenance on all of your projects only, or do you do other, like, do people get you to do just maintenance?
Funnily enough, we've really got that whole service connection down pat now, where you go from A to B to C and it's a seamless process, and we've really got that client satisfaction to an absolute premium now. So in the last 2 years, we have gone to a 99% conversion rate. I would say that the only reason we don't service a job, like we don't take on that maintenance contract after the build, is because it's not in our maintenance service area. because we do sometimes Mornington Peninsula, Portsea, or we go out to the eastern or northern suburbs, we don't serve it. We only service literally a 10 to 20k radius from our office in Brighton East. So that's the only reason why we wouldn't service that area.
Yeah. So when did you start putting a lot of staff on? Did you do a lot of subcontracting first with construction and then put your own on?
Yep. So in my first couple of years of business, it was subbies. I'll probably say in the sort of fourth and fifth year of business, I had a couple of staff members that were full-time. And then after my fifth year, I had quite a rough time. Like, I was this young girl in the industry who was sort of starting to make a name for herself and getting lots of work and getting a lot of attention from that sort of reason. And I then sort of was like, well, I need to come off the tools because I need to grow the business. So I need people that I can have working on the tools that don't need me there 24/7 holding their hand. And I need competent staff to do that. So then I went through this after the fifth year as well. I had the wrong accounting system in place. Sorry, my old bit wrong. I had the wrong accountant. I had the wrong bookkeeper. I was trying to go cheap on the accounting side of things, which God knows you do not do that. You pay through the nose for your accountant and you pay through the nose for your bookkeeper, because they are the ones that keep that ship flying right. I will come to the end of the story in a second, but I went for an entire year in my fifth year of business, flying completely blind, not looking at a P&L for 12 months, because I just employed this new bookkeeper who brought on Xero. Xero's fabulous. He didn't set the file up properly. It was a disaster. Then I found an accountant who he was unreal. And he basically said, your whole system is set up wrong. Your company structure is set up wrong. Like, this is, the Xero file's not even set up, blah, blah, blah. So then we fixed all that. Turns out I owed a lot of tax, the tax department. Paid all that over 2 years. I'm completely debt-free and have been for a very, very long time, but that's what happened. And so then I hired the next iteration of IJL staff members. Now, when you come off the tools, you go through an emotional process. People listening to this that have done that process would know what I'm talking about. It's an emotional, you have to disconnect from feeling like you need to be on site all the time. And it's really hard to do that. So that took like 3 years to get out of that mentality. Oh, well, I'll just pick up the shovel and I'll do it myself, or I'll just screed that because I know how to do that better. But you then disempower your staff when you do that stuff. So the point I'm trying to make there is I hired the next iteration of staff members and they were competent to a point, but I still felt like I was kind of still tapping in, tapping out. And then I actually got rid of all those staff after about another 4 years. And then now I have the crew that I am working with now, and I've just slowly built them up. And I do think that every business, I mean, I don't know this personally, but I would say that most businesses would go through this kind of trial and error phase of what staff you need to hire and how much because you obviously need to manage the wages side of things and then the trust side. I had terrible trust issues from my parents breaking up, and that all came out as well. It was a disaster. So anyway, yeah.
So was it mainly luck on the people you got working for you? So was it mainly the first group sort of weren't actually going to be, they weren't the type of person who was going to be successful, so and then the next one were? So my staff have always been great, but the first iteration of staff they were not long-term staff because my company was too small to see long-term at that point. It was too small. So when you look at my business model back then, it was like, cool, I'll be here for 2 years, it'll look good on the resume, and then I'll go somewhere else because she's too small to sort of keep going with. The next iteration of staff was the same ilk, but the wrong type of person put in the wrong spot. So it was like, staff doing a managerial type role, but they've never managed before. So
I was just learning because I've never worked in another company, like apart from the one I had, but that was sort of a bit of fun, you know. But then the iteration of staff I have now, sounds terrible saying iteration, but you know what I mean, the next revisal of people, you know, it started off with the people that were coming in are now the managers in my divisions. So, and I've grown them from ground up. And then the people that are under them are being trained by them on my way and how I like things. I still have creative say, and I still go down to site just to check on things because I hold the builder's license and I need to be able to make sure I have oversight on those things. But the staff I have now are unbelievable. They are so competent. They are confident. They know they work for an amazing brand and company, and they do an incredible job every single day.
Yeah, I think doing it, being patient when you're trying to grow your staff is the way to go. Because I had a qualified guy and I went to put on another one and he was just useless the second one I put on. So then I realized I'm better off putting on an apprentice, training him up the way I want things done. And that worked out awesome. So now I've got 2 awesome guys on.
Yeah. I think it's, I also think that that's what our industry is about. I think any industry is like this, but our industry in particular, nurturing people and bringing them up. There is this sort of thing that the industry does because of, you know, and also it's quite, there's not a lot of landscapers out there in Victoria, period. There's obviously a lot of landscapers Australia-wide, but it differs from state to state on how we build things too. So you've got to be careful of that. I think that one of the biggest things I've been seeing is when you have someone who's just finished an apprenticeship and they've either not done the full landscaping tricks book, so they only know how to pave because they've been doing mixes for 4 years and they've just been paving or doing cuts for 4 years and a couple of sleepers. They don't know how to do lighting, they don't know how to do irrigation. None of them know how to do irrigation. So there's either those, or there's the ones that were showing that they were management material early on in their apprenticeship. And as soon as they finished, they got jacked up to 90K a year and put in charge of a crew. And then they just completely lose it because they have gone from 0 to 100 in one go and they haven't been nurtured up. And then you get the ones that come in for an interview going, yeah, I want 100K a year. I just finished my apprenticeship and I'm the shit. And it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. And they go, no, pay me $100,000 a year. And I go, you wouldn't even know the first thing on how to manage a job. But do you know what I mean? There's that. So as an industry, like one of the biggest things with staff is we need to be nurturing them. We need to be empowering them and we need to be educating them. Our apprentices go through almost the same profile of schooling at their TAFE, they do it with us as well. So it's like, right, what are you doing? What is your school course saying you're doing this month? This is what we're training you on. Our apprentice who's is in 3rd year this year, we bought him a tool belt with all the bits and pieces for him to do carpentry because he's just started doing more carpentry. We handed it to him the guys did in a ceremony on site, and he was completely like chuffed. And he is now shadowing one of our other guys who's a qualified landscaper who is like a gun at chipping. So it's about that nurturing side that I think as an industry we need to improve upon because we're going too fast as an industry. And we are growing as an industry exponential rate, and we do not have enough staff to support that.
Absolutely. And yeah, and that's again, it's a bit of a balance because there's so much work on, so people are trying to get all the jobs done. So it's a lot easier just to get someone to do something they already know how to do, rather than taking the time to teach them to do something that they don't know how to do, so then they can learn and be more valuable.
Right. They can be more versatile, and then they can be effectively be more efficient in their role moving forward. I mean, God knows we need to be able to produce. Like, I mean, I'm not sitting here going, you know, I'm happy just to train my staff 24/7 and not complete my jobs. Obviously, we have a timeline to meet with all our jobs, but we're trying to, I won't say that we've found the lucky key yet, but we're trying to implement these ways of making sure that we're training these staff up. And one way we've found doing that is like a checkbox system that they're meeting each criteria as they're moving through the program, through their TAFE and then with us.
Have you had any business mentors or anything about the way to run the business?
Yes. John from Landscaper Coach. He's in New South Wales. He's a gun. Shout out to him if he's listening, because I know he would listen to this podcast. He's a weapon. He came in shortly, maybe 2 years after, I met him 2 years after my 5-year meltdown. And he put some excellent procedures into place, excellent advice, excellent ways of doing things. Because one of the things that people need to be careful of is when you engage someone for mentorship, like for training or mentorship, they need to be in the industry. Like they need to know about, it's pointless bringing in a life coach or a business coach that doesn't know anything about the building and construction industry.
Yeah.
So John, he's a gun.
Yeah, because it sounds like if you've got a larger staff, it sounds like business coaching is the way to go. A lot more people seem to be more successful. And that's when you've got to have systems and that sort of processes in place. So have you got systems and processes that everyone follows on site?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So we have 3 types. We have 3 systems. We have one called the Ijl Systems Manual. Now that is like a procedural manual that I think that document's like 280 pages long, and it's from design to construct to maintain, and it's literally a step-by-step process of how everything works. Now, it's not 100% full at this point. In the idea of the book Bible is that someone would open it and know how to run my company. Okay. Now, there are still missing procedures. So on a Thursday in the ops meeting that the construction team run, it's the head of each division, plus the project manager and sometimes myself, I sit in on it. If there's something that comes up in that meeting, like, oh, we don't have a procedure for that, Stephanie from our admin, she writes down that procedure, gives me a draft, everyone edits it, then I see it, I add some bits and pieces on, and then it gets inserted into the manual with a variation. The second manual is to do with we've created our own standards and tolerances guide within the company. So everyone knows what the standards and tolerances in terms of like BCC codes, or part of the the VBA stuff.
Yep.
The Australian standards. We have a standards and tolerances. So like, for example, I think there's one, this came from when I got my builder's license. Like I think the one I learned was like how to look at a wall and tell if it's painted correctly. Stand 2 meters, like a meter away in halogen, good light. And if there's like marks, it's not painted correctly. Anyway, that tolerance guide. So we created that. And it's like, it tells you for what the paving needs to look like, the finishes, it needs to be cleaned and sealed, what sealant to use, what not to use, how to clean and seal, how to tell if there's efflorescence or not, how it's marked as defective or not, if it's chipped or not. Like there's things with that. There's how edging is to be installed and what the finish is against the lawn. Yes, we've got a construction detail in the page, but there's this manual that the guys follow to make sure it's like Inge Jabara standard. We have a standard that says like leave, when you get the garden, the lights from gardens at night and they have the plastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we leave that on, the sleeve on, and then duct tape, electrical tape around the base of it. And that comes off after we send the construction clean through.
Yep.
So that's a standard. And then the third manual is actually to do with our maintenance division. It's called the Maintenance Operations Manual. And that lists from start to finish how to conduct a service, what is the level of standard that service needs to be. And at the very, very end of that document, it has listed from January through to December, the tasks to do in the garden from Jan to December. Prune roses, May. But it's like, there's like, I think it's like 15 or 17 points on what needs to be done per month. Some of them double up because obviously you can do it across 2 months. But it just gives that, if someone was to come, when people come in as new horticulturalists or new apprentices, they get a copy of that document and then they read it. They carry it with them in their bag. And then we can say to them, look at that document, January, what do we do there? Or when do we, like, we can quiz them, like, when do you service the tool? When do you change the oil? How do you change the oil? When do you change the spark plug? How can you tell that the blower is not working properly? What is the sound that you hear? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that so much. Like having that 280 pages of information on how to do everything. That's something I've wanted to do, but it's just such a daunting thing to start doing, because there's, like, in landscaping, there's just a couple of things that we do in landscaping. So it's
true.
Yeah, like I say, 280 pages and it's not complete.
So don't get me wrong, like, so that document is to do with, like, how things are run. So it's like, when a phone call comes through the office, how do you answer that phone call? So my staff all say, across all phones, mobiles and landline, "Good afternoon, Inge Jabara Landscapes, Joel speaking." Now, if the guys on site know it's a supply, obviously they'll just be like, "Hey, like, yeah. Hi, it's Brendan. How are you?" That's fine. I'm not a total stickler. Yeah, that book is, I mean, I've been working on that book for like 6 years, but it just started out with, like, so my advice to someone who's starting something like that, a manual, would be start with the top 5 areas that you want to list down, like phones, etiquette, customer information, like taking customer information down, how to do a quote, how to enter zero, like receipts into zero, or how to do the accounting side of things. You can also outsource that to your bookkeeper and say, "Can you just write me a system on how you do that, so that if you ever went, I can give it to the next person and they know how to do the data entry and they know what all the chart of accounts are for my books." So you can outsource those things. Now, I'm at that point now where I can just give that task to a staff member and say, "Hey, you know how you did that? Can you write that down in the system, add it to the ops meeting, get it approved, and then add it into that manual?" Whereas before it was just me going, like, idea, put it into that thing. That's how we'll do it. And it's been, edited so many times. But start small. The reason why I have it there too is in the event of ever selling, or, touch wood, me dying or not being able to do anything, my company is able to be run. So I think it's irresponsible to not have something like that in place, so that you have, your staff, the whole thing keeps turning its doors,
Yeah. But just even every job we do, there's always something you learn that you think, "Oh yeah, next time we do it, we'll have to remember this." So, but not everyone is there on that job at the same time. So having something that's written down that people can read and updated it, like, just check these are things that are updated this month on it.
100%.
I love it.
So they're the things, like, just chuck it in an email. Like, have you got anyone that does admin for you, or you do admin?
Joel Barnett does that.
So you can go online and get these, like, outsource your admin to overseas staff. We use a website called Upwork. So I have a couple of overseas people that do some parts of admin, personal admin for us. You just send it to them, like, just chuck it in an email. At the end of the day, just sit on the job and just be like, "All right, we did that and that worked really well, and that mud and mortar mix was a lot more rock hard than it normally would." Stuff. I feel like that was going to have a larger adhesion rate, so we'll do those ratios next time, or we'll trial it. You just punch it in an email. They can stick it into the thing, and then you keep looking at it. That document, like your business plan, is never meant to be a completed document. It's an ever-growing draft. It's never completed. It's a draft constantly.
Yep. So changing topics, when did you first get in touch with the block? When were you on that for the first time?
So I did my first season in 2015, which was Darling Street, South Yarra. Yep. So I did it was a vertical timber wall with ivy through it for Josh and Charlotte. And then I basically ended up doing every second, I did a season of Renault Rumble shortly after that. And then I did the next season of the block. And then I basically have done every second season since, except for Oslo and Gatwick, because I had a baby and they were back-to-back filming. And I'm now on the current season. So I texted you and tried to get out of it. But no, the owner of the show called me and was like, "You need to do it." And I'm like, damn it. So I'm unfortunately there, and it's a 12-week shoot. So
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is that something you love doing?
Do you know, I didn't think that I would love it so much. And it's not so much about the film and television side. Like my family's always had a bit of a theatrical side to ourselves, but I actually get a kick of pushing boundaries, period, breaking glass ceilings. You know me, you've seen me, everyone's seen me do these things on Instagram. I just get a kick out of it because building a garden in a week sounds like fun, which is technically not a week. We end up getting 3 days after the contestants have finished like the external cladding and all the other bits and pieces, and their scaffolding comes down generally on a Friday anyway. So we get, Friday night, Saturday, and we're done. So yeah, that's how I started in 2015, and I'm still going. And we now, my company maintains all the like we do all the aftercare. So once it finishes wrapping, I then get possession of all the gardens of 5 houses, and my company takes care of all the gardens and does all the landscape defects.
So do you find you get any work from the amount of work you've done on the block?
So in my first year, no. My second year, yes, they just liked what I did. But I found that after the sort of third and fourth season, I'd probably get a couple of clients a year from the show. But I don't do the show I never do any of these things to get leads. Like we don't need any more work. We have, even before COVID, we didn't need any more work. We have a steady flow of work coming in, and that's through other marketing tools and the location of our office, and etc., and the signage we have outside that office. So do I get a lot of clients out of it? Yeah. I thought initially we would get clients coming through, but they had very, very low budgets and they were in areas that we didn't service. Whereas in the last couple of years, we've found that we're getting some very, very big clients and contracts out of fans of the show and fans of me through social media and that sort of stuff. So we are getting a couple of jobs out of it, but I don't do it to get leads. I do it because it's fun.
Yeah, it is a challenge, but yeah, it's something different. So I'm the same. That's why I like doing it, but haven't got time these days.
Well, when we did it together, when you were next to me, on the 2019 series, you did an incredible landscape, and I don't know how you did all that concreting in that short amount of time. Like I just don't touch that stuff on the show, period, because I go from the conservative side of things. I'm like, this is a great design, we'll go with this, and if I need to remove anything, I easily can. But that was a beautiful design and build that you guys and COS did there. And I think having guys like yourselves on that show too, like this is definitely another reason why I do it, which I've just only remembered, which is having a garden like that on TV to such a massive audience reinforces to the audience how important gardening and landscaping is to the housing and commercial space.
Yeah.
So doing what you guys did, doing what I do on TV, Charlie Albone and the team at House and Garden magazine. What's the
Better Homes and Gardens.
Thank you, Better Homes and Gardens. Better Homes and Gardens. Charlie, they're all doing things to benefit us and our industry. So as much as I think, Dave and I, Dave obviously has been doing a lot longer than me. And then then it was Dave and I doing it. And then we were getting a lot of shit from the industry, like, oh, you're doing a landscape in one day. It's like, yeah, but we do a quality job. And we do it because it gets us as a collective on TV, and puts more of it just takes someone sitting flicking on a Saturday night going, wow, look at the concrete bench in that garden. Shit, I better hire a landscape designer or a landscaper to do the job, not just get my mate to do it on the weekend, So it's industry awareness.
Yeah. Yeah. I like how there's no, plastering week or plumbing week, but there's a couple of landscaping weeks. So it's good that's on there.
I know. I did think that. Actually, some trades have said that to me before, like, why don't we get a week? Yeah. Why is it all about the landscapers? It's more about the landscapers than the contestants on Landscape Week.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, look, gardens are pretty. That's why they,
Yeah, makes sense.
Plumbing's not pretty. Pipes sometimes can be, if they're copper.
Yeah, nice copper one, yeah.
Yeah.
So what's coming up in the future for IJL?
So I am moving a little bit away from the everydays of IJL now. I'm focusing more on the design side of things, which I'm doing sort of remotely now, and that seems to be working quite well for me. And I've got 2 little kids now, and I'm sort of, the plan was always to have the business and get it set up and make money and then have kids and then sort of be a mum. I can't just be a mum though, like I have to work. So the plan for the future, I moved to Geelong recently, which you know, because you did my front pathway, because I needed someone to do it in the area. So I moved to Geelong, I'm renovating my house and making my, finally I get to have a garden that I love and I can tend to myself, and it's designer. And then, I'm working with a couple of brands now, and will be for the next 12 months, to do a couple of speaking events and some shows. So I'm really excited about these new opportunities that are coming up, because I do want to step away from, I still have a lot to do in the company, but not a lot to do. It's more of the higher up stuff. So I'm working on now about awareness of gardens and how important they are to residential, to the health and well-being of us as humans, looking at more ways to get women involved in construction and landscaping. I have a lot of followers on social media that have started landscaping companies or just started a trade. Doesn't matter if it's landscape, might be plumbing. I've got a couple of electricians that have started as well. So inspiring women to be in the trade. I've never been a bra burner, and I never will be, but I love the fact that I do inspire through my social stream. So I'm focusing more on that stuff and creating the Inge Jabara brand rather than the IJL brand that I've worked so hard on. So that's what the future holds for me at this point in time.
Do you have any plans now that you're living in Geelong to start up a crew down here as well?
Everyone keeps asking me that. No, I won't be your direct competitor just yet down here.
Oh, there's plenty of work around.
Yeah, I know. At this point in time, we will probably start designing in Geelong. I already have got 2 clients in Geelong that I'm working with, just because they're sort of, I know them locally. So I'm definitely happy to design in Geelong at this point in time. In terms of starting a crew, it's on the horizon, but it's not into fruition yet, because it's not really the right time to be hiring staff. As you know, there's not many staff out there. So it's on the radar, but I mean, we have an amazing thing going on in Melbourne at the moment, and an amazing crew and an amazing way that everything's working. So I'm sort of satisfied with that.
Yeah.
I definitely am not saying no though.
Yeah, it'd be a really challenging thing to do though, because it's not like you're starting a new business, because you've got an established business where you've got a certain standard of work. So you can't just click your fingers and have people who can do that kind of work straight away as well.
Absolutely. Like it would literally be, I would say, a qualified and an apprentice, and they would have to be closely trained by me or bring down a staff member that trains them a couple of days a week, or we'd run a training plan for them. We do have a training plan for staff to follow, but, or it's basically that thing of pay someone a lot of money that is extremely experienced to head up that crew, have an apprentice or 2 below them, and then execute the work from there.
Yeah, and hopefully you got the right person.
Yeah, I know. That's the trick.
Yeah. All right, Inge, thank you so much for your time for coming on today. I really appreciate it. And it's a great info in there. So I reckon there'll be a lot of people that will get a lot out of this. So thanks very much for coming on.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me, Joel. And what a great thing you're doing. It's really great.